Hi, this is Randall Schwartz, host of FLOSS Weekly. This week, Dan Lynch joins me. We're going to talk about Kaltura, a giant open platform for doing video in all sorts of crazy ways. You're not going to want to miss it, so stay tuned.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for FLOSS Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is FLOSS Weekly with Randall Schwartz and Dan Lynch. Episode 261, recorded August 14th, 2013. Kaltura. It's time for FLOSS Weekly, the show about free, libre, open source software. I am your host, Randall Schwartz, Merlin at Stonehenge.com, bringing you each week, or as often as I can, pretty close to each week these days, the movers, the shakers, the big projects, little projects, projects you might not have heard of, projects you may be using every day and just not being aware of it. As always, I'm joined by a co-host. This is my co-host this week, Dan Lynch. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, it's good to be back. It's been a little while, but it's good to be back.
Yeah, it's part of why I asked you to be on this particular show, because I know I hadn't chatted with you in a while, so we have to catch up with what's going on and everything. Let's see. Let's just introduce our guest to begin with. So we're going to have a couple of guys on. Oh, first the project name. It's too early in the morning, so my caffeine is not totally kicked in yet. I'm going to remember how to do this, but it's just a little sloppy there. All right, so on this week's show, we have Kaltura. Kaltura appears to be a sort of broadly a collection of projects that are all sort of ultimately bringing out the goal of having video show up on multimedia websites. That's probably horribly described. We'll have to have the project leader, correct me because I'm slightly wrong there. But in just scanning over the stuff I see, it's huge. I mean, I was trying to get the scope of this project, and it's not just one project. It's a lot of projects. And it's got video editors, like inline video editors. You can actually edit video directly on a website. And it's got, video performance production things, transcoders, so you can upload videos of one type and have it show up as something else on your website. That's about the most I could glean from. We're going to have a lot of questions for our guests, I can already tell. But Dan, what's your take on this so far?
Yeah, I had a quick look through the website, and I was checking out some of the tools, and it seems that there's a lot of interesting stuff there with HTML5 video, which I'd like to ask more about as we get into the interview. Because I think everybody these days is pretty much fed up with Flash. I know a lot of us are. So hopefully that'll be an interesting part of it. We can look more at HTML5 and stuff like that. Looks very interesting.
Cool, yes. And so our guests today, we'll bring them on in a second. Our guests today are Zohar Babin. I'm probably mispronouncing it. Either way, we'll have to ask him how it's pronounced. Who is the project sort of creator, as far as I can tell, and still kind of the head honcho in charge of everything that's going on with the thing. And Michael Dale, who's more of the technical side of things. He's the senior director of product with Kaltura. And when with Kaltura. So two great experts to talk about this project and really help me understand what the hell this is all about. But let's go ahead and bring on Zohar. Zohar Babin, welcome to the show.
Hi, everyone. How are you? Thank you very much for having us.
Cool. And there's a little bit of delay as we talk to you. And why don't you explain that by telling us where you're talking to us from?
So I am actually right now based in Israel, in where most of our R&D and core team is based out of.
Cool. Well, we'll get back to you in a second to ask those overview questions, but I want to also bring on our other guest today. That's Michael Dale. Michael, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hi, and
I'm joining you from New York, and great to be on the show. Thanks for having us.
So that means we've got the East Coast, the West Coast, the UK, and Israel all represented in the show. So if there's a little bit of delay sometimes when we're talking to each other or we stomp on each other's words, that's what's going on. One of these multi-continent ones that are sort of cool. So anyway, let's go back to Zohar for a minute. I sort of gave my hand-waving approximation of what I sort of think Kaltura is about. Why don't you go ahead and give us the 30,000-foot view and explain what problems Kaltura is solving?
Great. Thank you. So I think that this show is actually representing quite well what Kaltura is about. And actually, interestingly, because we have the West Coast, East Coast, UK, and Israel in the same call, we're actually representing all of the Kaltura offices. which are San Francisco, New York, Israel, and London. Kaltura was born out of the belief that video should be a first citizen in the web, that it should be as easy to consume, create, edit, collaborate on, and share as it is with text and images today. So if you look on Wikipedia, it's so easy to work with text, so easy to find, to search text. It's easy to consume it and share it. It should be the same way as video. And you know, along that, we also believe that video is the future, and communication is actually moving towards video. You know, FLOSS Weekly is all over video. Corporations are using videos today to train their employees, to enable communication across offices around the world. In education, we see it really transforming education today with MOOCs and LMSs and the way that students are studying, you know, remotely, and as well as just to augment the way that they study in classroom, allowing professors to focus more on helping out and having discussions in the class rather than you know, presenting material that is in the textbooks. We also see it used obviously in media and entertainment, and a lot of very innovative websites and OTT, over-the-top applications where you get to consume videos in much more engaging ways, in more social ways, in more interactive ways, and you know, allow you to participate and take part in the consumption of the video and actually creation of the video as well. So Kaltura is a media management platform. It was born to basically be the plumbing of online video and to allow you to more easily and seamlessly build those applications without worrying about what codecs should you use and how do you transcode and what are the better ways to deliver videos and how to you know, distribute them between CDNs and between servers, and basically how to reach your audience anywhere in the world without worrying too much about the technical problems of it in a very fast-moving industry that has a lot of innovation happening on it right now.
So what was the scene like? What was when Kaltura got started, and what was the biggest missing piece that caused the people that started it, I'm presuming you're one of them, to actually work on something like this?
So Kaltura started off in 2006. In June 2006, it was started off actually by 4 founders, 2 of them from Israel and 2 of them were in the US back then. Michal Tzur, who was the founder of Sayota, which was then bought by RSA, Eran Eitam, which was one of the founders of ICQ, and then Ron Yekutiel and Shai David, who were the founders of Destinator, the first GPS program. They started Kaltura with the same beliefs that I mentioned before, and the desire to make video easy to use and easy to consume. Back then in 2006, it was the really early days of video on the web. Everybody knew already this is the future, this is where everything is going, but it was still very much, very hard to build video applications, and even just simply have a video playing back on your website was a complete headache, which, you know, how do you upload it? How do you store it? How do you deliver it to different devices? And back then it was even worse than it is today. HTML5 wasn't even, you know, was just being thought of. You know, the days of Steve Jobs fighting against Flash were not there yet. So this is where basically the problems they tried to solve, and I joined very quickly after that to the company as one of the developers. I had the pleasure to build the first ever online video editor, so a complete video studio like Premiere based on Adobe Flash back then. Was a complete headache and a lot of exciting job that we have done. And then soon after that, we started talking a lot about HTML5 and open source, and bringing that solution to everyone with the collaboration from the Wikimedia Foundation and Wikipedia, and the goal of basically making it easily accessible and free for all. So we started working with Michael Dale, and from then on, from there, basically the HTML5 project was born on html5video.org, which was a collaboration between Kaltura, the Wikimedia Foundation, and Mozilla. And I think we've built a rather impressive player framework, which goes along with the complete video platform to basically allow you to build your own video application anywhere to any audience on any device.
Wow. Well, I remember the scene back then where we had to figure out, okay, what kind of codecs are they likely to have on their browser, and will they know to click on WMV if they're on Windows, and you had to transcode everything, multiple times in multiple different formats. And wait, did we even have like real video back then too, and all those other weird options?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
But bad old days.
Yes, yeah. Hey, Michael, I'll let Zohar take a sit for a second here. So what's this, what are the, I mentioned, like, as far as I can tell, like actually a number of specific projects within the Kaltura umbrella. Can you talk about some of these components? I know Zohar mentioned a couple of them, but
sure.
let's enumerate those.
So yeah, as Zohar mentioned, there's the sort of front-end player platform that consists of a Flash and HTML5 player components. And then beyond that, there's the basic server platform that encompasses a lot of different components around transcoding and management console. And then it's all sort of driven by a central API. And that whole system runs on PHP, MySQL, and Sphinx for the searching and indexing of content and metadata.
So is this something that plugs into, like, say, a WordPress thing that I'm using, or some of this sort of thing? How does this work?
You can think of it as sort of a video CMS. So where you sort of have like a platform, and then you can put in lots of different plugins to connect it to different things. That's sort of how it all works. So we'd have a WordPress module that connects into the Kaltura platform and lets you sort of search and inject media within a blog post, or a Drupal module that lets users upload content to their site, and then have some sort of moderation queue or tools for sort of filtering and displaying that content within the website that you're targeting.
So, Michael, I was actually just looking at your Drupal module. Funny enough, as you said that, I'm just looking on my other machine here at some of the Drupal tools that you've got. For my sins, I'm sometimes a Drupal developer. And recently I actually had a project where we were doing a lot of video stuff. And I wish I'd known about this, to be honest, because I spent ages looking for video solutions. And so can you tell us a little bit more about the Drupal integration stuff? I see you're supporting Drupal 7, and you've also have Drupal 6 as well. But it looks like a really kind of beefy module you've got there. There's all kinds of stuff in there. So can you tell us a little bit more about that, maybe?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think Zohar may actually be more familiar with all the details of the Drupal integration, but essentially it's a fairly robust integration where we support both ingest and display. And recently we added sort of more responsive web design support for the Drupal module. That's sort of where I've come into play in that instantiation, but maybe Zohar could give a higher level picture of it.
I think the important thing to remember about Kaltura is, as I mentioned in the beginning, right, it's the plumbing of web video. The idea is that you basically have the Kaltura server as your middleware, right? That middleware basically handles everything related to the video processing, delivery, analytics, management, access control, and things like that. And then we have a lot of different extensions that basically plug into different CMSs or LMS learning management systems, or different enterprise collaboration systems, and things like that. And it basically brings those functionalities, whether it's ways to upload videos, or ways to manage videos, and if you're in WordPress, bring up a list of all the videos you have in the archive, and then choosing from one of them, embedding it into your post seamlessly in a way that you don't really have to understand what goes on in the background. So you upload a video just like you upload an image, and you let the backend handle that transcoding for you and making sure it's being transcoded to multiple formats and available for different devices. And then the extension also handles rendering the right player, and the player handles basically identifying where the user is coming from, what platform is he using, and then choosing whether to render HTML5 or where to render Flash, and what protocol to use, what codec to use, and even what rendition of the video to use. So if you're coming from a small device, there's no need to bring up a very large dimensions video, which will consume a lot of bandwidth. Same as if you're coming from a network which is not so fast, where compared to watching the video on your television on a fiber connection.
It sounds like a really, really powerful tool. And I'm just looking at some of the integration stuff. I see you've got things. I'm still looking at the Drupal module here, but I see you've got things like video and audio comments are enabled by this and stuff, so people could leave a reply video to I don't know, to some post or something, which is quite cool. So what about things like integration between the two platforms? Because obviously, if I'm uploading stuff to this, I'm actually uploading it not to my server, but to yours. Is that right?
So as I mentioned, Kaltura is open source. So by saying your server, you basically mean the Kaltura server. You can have Kaltura in multiple ways. We also have a commercial service on Kaltura.com. So it's basically Kaltura as a service, rather than you going on and installing it and having to make sure that you have the right IT in place and the right infrastructure and making sure to maintain it. And you'll have to understand a lot of things about networking and how to work with CDNs, for example, and how to manage transcoding loads and distribute servers and all that stuff. A lot of customers are just not interested in that headache, if you will. So they choose Kaltura's Kaltura.com, Kaltura's hosted service, where the extensions themselves are the same extensions, but instead of connecting to a self-hosted server, they connect to Kaltura.com.
And I see that just looking through the list of services and stuff, you're offering 10 gigabytes of free storage and streaming to try it out. That's quite a nice amount of video you could get.
That's our nice trial, basically.
Yeah,
cool.
If you're a developer, if you're working on projects, you can get even more access to storage and tools to use on the SaaS environment if you want to experiment with projects that work with the Kaltura platform.
That is true. We actually have a very robust developer and partners program. So if you are working on an application or a service that you'd like to later offer it to customers, build a service on Kaltura, and you want, you're just bootstrapping and you need some help, we have a very elaborative program to help people, build applications based on Kaltura, and that includes completely free hosted account and some support from our side and so on. So we're dedicated to finding those innovations out there. Sorry.
That's okay. That's all right. My problem. So I think that's the delay kicking in there. We're still getting that bit of delay. So that's really interesting. I mean, obviously, it's cool to see that you've got all these plugins for your WordPress and Drupal and other things as well. Do I just use an API? If I was developing my own custom application, I just use some kind of API to link in with what you guys are doing, and I can use that in any language, presumably?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the strengths of Kaltura, one of the unique, more exciting architectural elements of Kaltura or aspects of Kaltura was our approach for API-based applications. And let me back a little bit and explain what exactly I mean. Back in 2008, API wasn't really all that popular. So to find applications or even services that were completely open in terms of, whatever part of the system that you want to access, you could access through the API. That was a little bit, out of reach. Kaltura actually took that bold decision back in 2007. And we basically said, we're going to build a platform that will allow a lot of innovation around it and allow developers who are not necessarily video experts and not necessarily experts with Kaltura to be able to build applications and integrations into other systems without really needing to understand all those elements inside. So we've built a rather simple REST-based API. It's actually fairly easy to learn. In one of my experiments, I actually took first year a freshman basically in computer science and gave him a task of learning the complete Kaltura API in 1 week. And he built a wonderful application that sells video using PayPal's API in Kaltura. So it was really interesting. You could basically use the Kaltura API to access any part of the Kaltura system. If it's managing the backend server, the transcoders and things, if it's configuring accounts, if it's anything else. It's highly secured. It has a stateless authentication mechanism. And on top of all, those APIs are automatically generated by the server. So every time that we add a new feature, a new method or whatever, the server generates a new version of the API. On top of that, there is a layer that we call the client's library, the client libraries generator. And that basically takes that API schema and automatically generates client libraries in native programming languages. So if you're a PHP developer, or if you're an Objective-C developer, or a Java developer, or a Python developer, and so on, and you want to build a Kaltura API-based application, but you don't really want to, learn the whole REST API and build complex queries, HTTP queries, you could basically download those client libraries and use native objects and functions and methods, basically, in your language, get, IntelliSense and everything else in the language that you're working with, basically.
And so I'm thinking about this also from, say, even directly from a web perspective. Obviously, I can hit the APIs with JSON. Do you have JSON-P callbacks so I don't have to be same site limited?
Absolutely. Yeah, so the API provides response formats of JSON, JSON-P, XML, and PHP serialized. In addition, the request formats are either get or post, and you can also send using, how's it called? I forgot the word for it. That you're basically building, URLs rather than sending parameters. You're basically using slashes, right? So those are the request formats.
Arguments, yeah. Which is really helpful if you want to sort of put a CDN in between your request and what you ultimately deliver. So if you have like a complicated request with a playlist and some other entry data, you can sort of build that all out and put, Kaltura as the origin, but then hit that CDN URL and then have a sort of stateless URL that's high performant and gives you back the data that you need for your application.
Okay, so with this, I can see that I could basically create my own YouTube. That sounds like something I could do, but not that I want to do that today. Is this also for live streaming, or would that be out of the scope of this?
Yeah, we support live streaming through something called Akamai Universal Live Streaming that enables you to sort of ingest a single RTMP stream and then output both HDS and HLS for streaming to both mobile and desktop browsers. And the live stream is completely incorporated into the Kaltura platform system, so it's something that works the same as other entries, so you can categorize it, you can embed it into a page, you can use all the sort of syndication tools, you can put it into a playlist, put ads before it, after. It's all tightly coupled with the rest of the platform.
So I could become my own Ustream if I wanted to as well.
Yeah, you have lots of options.
Cool. So sorry, go ahead.
You could build Tweet TV using Kaltura.
Not that I'd want to. There's
you can
way
build
too much.
FLOSS Weekly using Kaltura.
Way too much work for me. I'm a lazy guy. I just barely log in with Skype every morning, and that's far for me. And then magic happens at the brick house, and then that's it. That's all I care about. So anyway, so what's this? As I was looking through the documentation, I see that there's actually 2 levels of stuff here, maybe more than 2. There's an open source component that has a nice core of functionality, but there's also this business that's built over the top of it. Which of you would like to speak to how that actually all fits together?
I can explain a little bit. I assume you're referring to sort of like the media space or YouTube in a box offering that is sort of a service that we provide on top of the core open source library. Is that what you're referring to? Yeah. So yeah, we basically have an offering that's been really popular within education and enterprise to sort of package a complete YouTube-like experience in a sort of turnkey solution, and that is built on top of sort of the open source core framework. But that turnkey media space solution is a proprietary offering.
Well, how different is the stuff that I could ultimately get if I paid you a lot of money beyond like support and that kind of thing, and maybe customization? But how different is that from the stuff I could just download in the community edition?
So I think it's a mix of a number of elements.
Okay.
First of all, the platform itself is the same platform, right? So you get the same set of functionalities and the same integrations and all that stuff. What you get on the commercial service is a service. But then you also get things like MediaSpace, which is an application that integrates with Kaltura and provides you a lot of the things that you would have to build on your own on the front side, on the front end, out of the box, basically. So the backend of Kaltura is all out there, and very much you could basically work a lot, all the functionalities there. In addition to that, on the commercial service, we also tend to package up a lot of other proprietary or commercial services. So for example, one major headache that a lot of enterprises and education facilities have is they use proprietary solutions like GoToMeeting or WebEx and things like that, right? Ingesting those formats and making them available on the web for any device and so on is a major pain. And so using Kaltura's commercial service, you'd actually be able to automatically ingest those formats, and Kaltura will take care of the rest. We'll take care of the transcoding and so on and so forth. So there are front-end applications, integrations to other proprietary platforms like SharePoint or things like that. And then commercial layer functionality that is not necessarily core Kaltura or not necessarily something that is that you could open source, because, for example, for those things, you'd need to have a commercial license for the codecs. So those are the kind of things that you'll see.
It's also about sort of packaging services, associated services. So we buy Akamai in bulk and then sell that CDN distribution support as part of the license agreement as well. So sort of packaging in things that you would need to distribute video independently of the fact that the platform is open source.
I'm still trying to get the scope of all these various little projects that I saw that are sort of under the Kaltura umbrella. Is this the kind of thing that I could build like a good webinar sort of thing, where I could have not necessarily two-way video, but at least like a chat room and me broadcasting video and then sometimes broadcasting a whiteboard and things like that? Is this the kind of thing that I could use to do that?
You would need a separate layer of software to sort of handle the collaborative aspects of it, but then to actually broadcast the webcasting component is something that we're working on a lot today, and is something that's basically feasible through the fact that you can do a live broadcast through a Kaltura ingestion point.
Now, how does the project actually work? I presume a fair number of people who are contributing to it are working at Kaltura.com, but are there a lot of outside contributors as well?
So yes, there are a bit more of the contributions that we're seeing today are around applications and things that leverage the APIs, as well as bug fixes and patches and things like that. We're working with the more active developers around Kaltura to also leverage some partners, partner-built integrations and things like that to go into core. So far, we've been using SVN as our repository, which have been a great challenge in terms of managing contributions and allowing people to participate. So we've recently, actually, just before OSCON, we've finalized the move to Git, and the project is actually on GitHub right now. So github.com/Kaltura is the main account with all the projects, and then github.com/Kaltura/server is the main Kaltura server. And we'll start seeing more and more core contributions very soon, I hope.
Is the bug list public then, the tracking system, whatever you're using?
We have sort of a hybrid tracking system, one where we sort of schedule deliverables for clients and for our product roadmap, and another one where community sort of reports issues or needs that they run into, or sometimes clients as well, sort of a public tracking mechanism for end users to report bugs and track their progress. And we sort of bridge both of them through GitHub.
Cool. In the chat room earlier, just before the show started, I forget the guy's name, I'm sorry. He said he was looking at Kaltura, but it was like only to host, a half dozen videos and maybe an upload facility. And he said it was a little too complicated to kind of figure it out from that level. At what point does this start making sense? How big of a project should you have before considering Kaltura?
I think it depends on the challenges you're trying to solve more than on the scale. If you're trying to build a complex application, let's start with this. Even if you have 12 videos, right? For most cases, it won't make sense because all you want to do is just play them back. So you could simply host those videos on some kind of a CDN and then use maybe just the Kaltura player to deliver those videos. However, if you really care about user experience and about distributing those videos seamlessly and not having to worry about managing those videos in their different codecs, then Kaltura will make a lot of sense. And so this is the lower end. If you're trying to build applications, interactive applications or distribution applications, for example, if you're a publisher and you're creating a lot of videos and you're not necessarily making those videos available online, but you're just distributing or selling those videos to your partners, then it makes a lot of sense to use something like Kaltura. So you'll have a central repository where you manage your videos, and then Kaltura distributes them automatically to wherever, whether it's Hulu, Netflix, YouTube, MSN, whatever. So those kind of use cases, obviously it's limitless in terms of what you can do, and we're starting to see a lot of different use cases with Kaltura. Where predominantly you'll see a lot of use cases of Kaltura in enterprises or corporations, education organizations and publishers, and media and entertainment. But we're starting to see more and more interesting applications of Kaltura in things like training and especially in medical, so like patient-physician communication and physician training and videos and things like that. So a lot of interesting applications are coming. And on the media side, we're starting to see more and more OTT applications. So turning the television, for example, into a more engaging and social environment, things like that.
Cool. And let's talk technology for a bit. We really haven't gotten into, I know you mentioned earlier that PHP was involved in MySQL and things, but are most things written in PHP, or most things, is there a lot of C components or Java components to it? And I presume there's a lot of JavaScript as well. So tell me about technologies that are involved.
Sure. So it's mostly PHP on the back end. I mean, aside from the fact that, when we integrate into another component like Sphinx or some other back-end piece that is not, that we don't write, could be written in C or could be written in some other languages. All the front-end components, of course, are written in JavaScript, and we worked a lot with the Mediawiki Foundation when we initially sort of built the player library, and therefore it uses sort of some JavaScript from there. It's like a resource loading mechanism that's pretty fancy to package in all your resources into a single request and really optimize our player load speed as much as we possibly could. And there's some interesting technology there to play around with if people are interested. And yeah, I think that's basically the platform is mostly JavaScript and PHP.
That sounds very cool. And I'm curious about licenses, as in not in video licenses this time, but I mean, I was just looking through the project and stuff as to what license your open source components and so on are under. Do you have a preference for license and so on?
Yeah, it is AGPL, a fairer GPL license. This is our open source license for all the projects.
Excellent. Okay, that's really cool to hear because I've talked about the AGPL a few times on the show. It's amazing how many people still don't know about it. It's kind of designed for the web. I won't get into a big whole, soapbox section about that. I'm sure Randall doesn't need that. So I'm just interested in things like, you've got like Mediawiki integration and other things going on. And Michael, you were involved with Mediawiki. So can you tell us a little bit about that kind of side of things as well?
Sure. I mean, I was there at the foundation for several years working directly with the Mediawiki developers. So naturally, it had a tight integration there. If you go to Wikipedia today, and look at video, you can see the Kaltura /Wikimedia player being used there for delivering video to users. What specifically are you talking about? The community or the infrastructure within the Mediawiki project? Or,
I suppose, more the kind of community and so on. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really, really positive community. They were really supportive in sort of incorporating that project eventually, and they had a lot of interesting ideas in terms of optimizing resource loading and just sort of dealing with the project at that scale really helped drive a particular architecture that it ultimately worked really well for when we were scaling up to the scale that Kaltura is operating at today.
Yeah, and I'm curious a little bit about HTML. Obviously, I mentioned at the very start of the show about I was interested in the HTML5 stuff. We've talked about the bad old days of Flash and so on.
Right.
So how long do you think it's going to take before everyone starts moving to HTML5? Because I know it's happening, but I still go on so many websites and it says you need a Flash player to play this video. Do you think that's going to happen anytime soon?
Yeah, I mean, within our own product roadmap, we're starting to shift towards leading with HTML5. So we've always been pretty robust around supporting seamless fallback to HTML5. But we're, going into the end of this year and into 2014, we're gonna push HTML5 first, and so that's gonna simplify the workflow for skinning and doing all sorts of plugins and experiences that people are working on. They'll be able to just write them once in JavaScript, and that will really save people a lot of time and be very helpful for delivering those experiences.
So I've done a little bit of coding in JavaScript. I can't say I'm a really excellent programmer. Once I found jQuery, I was kind of like, okay, I'll just sort of anything that's not the jQuery part of it, I'll just try over and over again until I get it right. What's it like developing things like an entire video editor and stuff in JavaScript?
It's a nightmare, especially around the Android fragmentation space. I mean, it was a very bad situation. I think things are starting to get a little bit better. And just as we sort of turn that corner, we're now plopping on a whole nother layer of APIs around Media Stream API, Encrypted Media Extensions API, things to enable adaptive streaming, protected content, new APIs for WebRTC to sort of do real-time communication, and all those APIs also have their own sets of browser vendor and compatibility kerfuffles or whatever you want to call them. Just different vendors having different interests in taking the web into a particular direction, and that's always going to be a part of the web, I think. And that's ultimately what really makes a platform like Kaltura really useful, and something that makes it a really great open source project where we can all focus on this problem of solving all these interoperabilities once and then letting people leverage that for their projects.
I will have to say, though, that as much as I hate JavaScript, the one thing that's sort of redeeming itself is we interviewed the guys from the Dart project a few months ago here, and I've actually been commissioned to do a couple of different projects commercially in Dart now. And it's really nice having a real language that has real libraries and real, types and strongly typed. If you want it to be, it's optionally typing, but strongly typed. I'm wondering, you might want to jump on that bandwagon by having some example code in Dart that talks to your APIs and keep people completely away from JavaScript if they want to.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting idea. That Dart does have like a nice interpreter, right? Like, so it seamlessly translates into JavaScript for other browsers, which is helpful if you want to ship code today.
Yes,
I wonder if, there are some limitations in the sense that it doesn't directly, they don't have a direct interpreter that's very fast yet, right? Like it doesn't even compare to their.
Well, actually, Dart to JS is getting much faster. In fact, on one recent benchmark, it turns out that the Dart to JS generated code was faster than the hand-coded JavaScript to do the same thing.
Okay, well, that's exciting. Yeah, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, it'll be positive, especially with ACM and the Mozilla work. So they could probably generate some Dart code that even compiled down to JavaScript with optimizations for typing, and there'd be lots of. I see lots of positive directions for JavaScript in general as all these different tool sets evolve to sort of tackle that problem of delivering scalable projects to the web.
Cool. Yes, definitely. And English, Randall, English. Testing. How much of this code is tested, and how do you test some of the more complex things, like making sure that video is actually streaming at this given time?
Yeah, that was actually something that we focused on really early on in our project is trying to sort of build a robust testing framework. And so we've put a lot of work into sort of setting up processes around testing. So as soon as a developer submits a pull request, it triggers off an automated tests, and it tests it across 5 or 6 different browsers, and it runs against our entire suite of automated testing using QUnit, and then we dispatch to a service called Browser Stack. So many words there.
Okay.
Yes, so Browser Stack is a really nice service. I don't know if people have checked it out. I actually have really nice offering for open source projects. So I encourage everybody to check it out. It's has a API-driven virtual machine invocation for browser testing. So that means you can basically send off a little job, and then it runs your test page against 5 different platforms for half an hour or however long it takes for you to complete all your testing, and then you get back instantly your results across all these different platforms. It's really powerful to sort of get quick visibility on whether a pull request is going to be something that is good for a merge or not.
Yeah, we had somebody similar to that on FLOSS Weekly, but I've now done so many shows, I do not remember hardly the names of anybody who's been on this show. I have to keep, occasionally somebody asks me, can you put this guy on the show? And I go, well, let me Google for it and make sure we haven't done that one already. So yeah, It's the management after 261 shows is a little crazy. We're almost out of time. Michael, is there anything we haven't covered that you want to make sure our audience is aware of?
Well, we didn't talk much about the upcoming Dash standard and some of the upcoming fun HTML5 API things, but I'm sure you probably cover that often in the show. But we're excited about them with Kaltura as well. So be fun to check out what sort of future applications are possible now that the API is fully maturing. And I wish I would have been able to develop a video editor with the technologies that are available today versus what I was doing with Wikimedia years ago. So it's maturing a lot, and that's really going to be positive for the type of experiences that we can deliver through the web in the near future. So it's exciting times.
Cool. And Zohar, same question.
Absolutely. I think to maybe drive a little bit off the technical route, actually, we have a really exciting conference coming up in New York on September 30 and October 1st. It's called Kaltura Connect, and Kaltura Connect is basically, I think, the only event in the industry today that brings together so many different applications and use cases of video, and shares a lot of different practices from business side to the technical and how-tos and so on. So it's connect.kaltura.com. definitely check it out. And we're actually, we've arranged for 20 discount tickets for FLOSS Weekly. So just use FLOSS Weekly 13 as your promotional code, and you'll get $200 off. We'll also arrange for a few free tickets for members for listeners of FLOSS Weekly. And you can decide if you want to hand them over or just let the first one take it. So this is another exciting thing we wanted to share. And if you do care about MPEG Dash or the future of online video, or just are interested in building those applications, or you plan on taking over, building a site like YouTube or the next generation education platform or whatever, do check it out and let us know what you think. And that's it.
Sounds cool. So I will get yelled at if I don't ask the next two questions of both of you. So here we go. So Zohar first, what's your favorite scripting language?
My favorite scripting language, I'd have to go with PHP first, and let's see, Python maybe. But I haven't done a whole lot of scripting in Python. It's just so freaking easy. It took me an hour to learn it. I've built a really cool parser that actually runs a search on our Knowledge Center website, the knowledge.kaltura.com site. And then, so it listens on the IRC channel, on the Kaltura channel on Freenode. And if you ask it to run a search for something on the Knowledge Center, it basically goes onto the website, runs that search page, brings up the first 4 or 10 results, I think, and then brings them back into the Knowledge Center. And it took me about 2 or 3 hours to build the whole thing, and it was really cool. That was the first time I ever touched Python.
Cool. Okay.
And PHP, definitely. I love PHP.
And text editor, favorite text editor?
Vim.
Damn.
Lost on both counts. That's okay. That's okay. And it's fine. Whatever your favorite, that's fine. I'm just an Emacs user, and I keep waiting for other people to say Emacs, so it's okay. Michael, same 2 questions?
I wrote the whole Python application in Vim.
I would go as Brendan has said, always bet on JavaScript for the language. And I mean, it has its faults, but in the end, a language is more than just its syntactical characteristics. It's the what you can do with it and what you can deliver over to what kind of experiences you can deliver to as many users as possible. And for editor, I use an IDE. I use Eclipse.
Okay,
so.
That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. I just
so I did use Vim and Emacs in college, but
yeah. I tried them in college. I like that. Yeah. That'll be the quote. I tried them in college. I never inhaled, but I tried them. I really did. Well, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure talking to both of you, and hopefully a lot more people now will hear about Kaltura and see all the cool stuff it can do. So imagine you'll probably be getting a lot of new blood into your ecosystem. So thank you both for being on the show.
Great. Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much for having us.
All righty, that was Zohar Babin. I never did ask him how those names pronounced. And Michael
it's
Dale.
Babin.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. He's still there. All right. Now shut up now. We're going to talk about you behind your back now. Okay, so Dan, what'd you think?
Yeah, really fascinating project. And, this is one of the reasons I love doing FLOSS Weekly is this is obviously it's a huge project. It's been around since 2006. I didn't know anything about it before this. I'll admit my own ignorance, but this happens quite a lot on this show. Someone will go, have you seen this project? And it turns out it's perfect for lots of different things. I think it sounds like a really, really interesting platform. And as I said, I did recently have involvement with a Drupal 7 project for a video site where I wish I'd known about this now. If I could only get in my DeLorean and go back about a month, I'd probably try and use this.
Right. Yeah. And then it's, and I say that at the opening of the show, and there's a reason I say that, which is that the projects you may be using every day and not be aware of. I mean, everybody goes to Mickeywedia. That's the Disney one.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody goes to Wikimedia and or Wikipedia page or something, or one of the other millions of wikis that are based on Wikimedia, and is probably using this video player and maybe even the video editing system and the video uploading system and not aware of it. And now we know that Kaltura is sort of the mechanism behind the scene for that. And but that's why I say that, the opening of the show, the projects you may be using every day and not be aware of it. Well, I'm definitely a lot more educated now about what Kaltura actually has in terms of scope. I appreciate the guys coming on talking about that. Again, I don't know that I'd be using this anytime immediately soon, because I tend not to build like websites. I'm more of a make the website go faster guy. So, you know, that's my dude. So that's it. Anything else before we keep going on?
No. I think it's well worth checking out. I didn't want to harp on the point, but I love the fact that it's under the AGPL as well.
Yeah, that was cool. Very cool. Yes, so we have a bunch of people already scheduled for our upcoming rest of Q3 and all the way into Q4. Next week, we have SaltStack Update, which is SaltStack we had on the show probably, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. And SaltStack is in that category of things like Puppet and Chef and CF Engine. And we had something on recently, Audio, whatever it is. Whatever, don't remember. Anyway, and these are basically systems that are designed to keep your system up to date. So as you change configurations, you edit it in one central place, and then you say, go do it, and it changes across all your machines to make sure that they're all consistent and they're all up to date with the software and stuff like that. Well, apparently they've been doing a lot of work on it since we had them on the show last, and they've added a whole sort of cloud components to it. So these are things like spinning up, provisioning new machines from bare metal, provisioning new machines from EC2 bases and stuff like that. So I want to bring them back on and talk about that update they've been doing to that. Clockwork, which is, I should have gotten to the website between last week and this week. It's languages and tools for process control. So probably a slightly different sort of show from the usual one we have, but it looks like things that could manage a bunch of things for you. Campfire Maker. Why don't you speak about Campfire Maker, Dan?
Yeah, Campfire Manager is.
Campfire Manager, sorry, not Maker.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, it's actually a project that was created by It's a project that was created by a friend of mine, John Spriggs, who's going to come on and talk to us. It's for managing bar camps, basically. One of the perennial problems we've had with arranging bar camps and events is that it's great that anyone can just shove their session onto any room, but you end up with a really popular speaker in a tiny room and a big empty room with one guy and his friend in there. And it just doesn't work. And what we did with Campfire Manager is we made a system where people can vote on the talks they want to see, and it provisions rooms dynamically based on demand. So, yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. And following that, so we just added to the schedule just this morning. I was up at 4:30 this morning to do some work for my client. We're rolling out some new stuff and fixing some things, so I had to be up early. And I got email that said, please, I'm the project leader for ZoneMinder. ZoneMinder is a Linux video camera security and surveillance solution, and it looks really comprehensive. Does all sorts of things like managing tilt and pan on remote cameras and recording things and being a nanny cam and all sorts of wonderful stuff. So the project leader emailed me, and I immediately wrote back and said, well, here's our current schedule. Fill in wherever you want. And they said, well, how about this day? So that's it. So that's how easy it is to get on Floss Weekly. I did it all in my sleep this morning. But it looked up and said Linux. I figured that's probably close enough. But it looks like it's a different sort of show again. I kind of like that. I'm trying to get a good variety of shows. And people keep complaining that all the shows are enterprise. I'm trying to get a lot of other variety of things in here. And just to do a side digression there, that's how projects get on this show. If you want somebody's project, if you want to hear about something on Floss Weekly, have the project leader email me, merlin@stonehenge.com. Just like that, ZoneMinder got on this morning because of that. OpenWRT following that, that's Linux for embedded home gateways and routers. So basically reflashing your what's the router that you can do that with?
WRT 54G.
That's it. Yeah. So they deliberately make those just so they can be flashed, I think. I don't think anybody ever runs the existing software on those anymore. Yacey, which is a search engine for the intranet or internet. So imagine having your own Google at your own disposal and being able to essentially, Google index all of your internal documents without having to expose those to Google externally. And apparently on the internet side, Yacey installations can cooperate with each other and share the crawling responsibilities, like say across a set of sites for a particular pastime or whatever. So that's going to be really cool as well. And Wireshark is the last person we have scheduled so far. That is the wire protocol analyzer. It used to be called Ethereal, but it basically knows how to dissect pretty much everything that travels by packets. So it can analyze them. It can set triggers on things. You can dump things. You can analyze dump logs that you made somewhere else, like from an intrusion detection system. It's going to be great. We get the project leader coming in to talk about that as well. So if you want to find out who else is coming up, you can go to twit.tv/floss. There's a spreadsheet linked from there. You can see all the people we're trying to schedule. And if you have a project that's not on that list, have the project leader email me, merlin@stunhenge.com, and we'll get them added right away, just like ZoneMinder did earlier. Okay, we have a live chat room at live.twit.tv. We took a couple questions from the chat room today. We're taping typically at 8:30 a.m. Pacific time on Wednesdays, but go to the spreadsheet and it'll tell you the exact taping time in case we have to vary it a little bit. We're also on Floss Weekly on Google+, and I announce new guests there, and I also talk about what the upcoming show of the day is or what the upcoming show of the week is. You can follow me personally at Merlin, MERLYN, on Twitter, and you can also more likely follow me. Well, you'll probably follow me either way, but you'll get more information if you follow me on Google+. I'm Randall L. Schwartz. I post a lot about my now way of eating that made me much healthier, and I also post a lot about open source and things I find that interesting like that, and occasional humorous items as well. I get about 24,000 followers on Google Plus now. It's pretty cool. If you follow me in any one of those, you'll also hear that I'll be in New York City. I have a meetup scheduled on the 27th. We're still finalizing it. It'll be Midtown somewhere. I haven't been to New York City in a while, actually just to connect to a cruise or whatever, so I only had like a half a day. I was supposed to speak a couple days or hang out a couple days with a client there, and so I already booked my flight, and then they said, no, sorry, we're not going to be there anymore. So that sucks. So I'm just going to hang out for New York City for a few days for a change, and it's a good thing it's like late August and not November or something, so it'll be fun. The reason I'm going to New York City is it's a big East Coast run. I'll be down in DragonCon in Atlanta all Labor Day weekend. Please, if you see me down there, come up, introduce yourself, say hi, say I'm a Floss Weekly listener, and so on. That'd be that. I'll be doing a lot of things, something like 6 different presentations on both the podcasting track and the EFF track. So I'm first time on the podcasting track this year. In fact, I'm even sitting in with Tom Merritt, who's going to on the show upcoming after us, right on the live show, at a DragonCon. So it'll be fun to hang out together like that. That's all the plugging I want to do. What do you got, Dan?
Actually, I've got. You mentioned Campfire Manager before, and I want to mention the fact that software was created for an event that we run in the UK called OggCamp. That's OGGCAMP. It's not all about audio container. Codec containers, I promise, but it's kind of related. Anyway, so yeah, we're running it again. It's in October. It's going to be the 19th and 20th of October in Liverpool in the UK. And we just released tickets. We had, I think about 150 or 160 tickets going the first 2 days. So it's proving really popular. If you head to oggcamp.org, that's OGGCAMP.org. You can watch a little video on there about what the event is about, basically, and you can find tickets and accommodation, all kinds of stuff. It's the largest open source event in the UK, so please, if you're in the UK and you can make it, or if you're not in the UK and you can make it over, come and join us on the 19th and 20th of October in Liverpool. And I think that's enough of a plug for now. If you want to find out what I'm up to, you can always head to danlynch.org, as it says on the screen.
Very cool. Dan, well, thanks once again for being my co-host on this show. It's been a while since I've had you around, so this is nice. And I'll see you again in 3 weeks, I guess, for the, maybe 3 weeks or 4 weeks, for the Campfire Maker.
You're going to get that name right one of these days. Yeah.
Matt.
Yep, I'll be back.
Yes, okay, yeah. Or actually, Campfire Maker would be the guy that stacks up the wood in that little triangle. That'd be the way to do that, yes. Campfire Manager. I won't get it right yet. All right, so without further ado, we'll be seeing you again all next time on Floss Weekly.